The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the woods, their towering trees whispering secrets only nature could understand. Baron Trump, the youngest member of America's most famous family, walked quietly beneath the canopy of leaves, a world away from the buzzing of cameras and the constant attention he had known all his life. At just 17, he was no longer a boy, but not yet a man. His life, shrouded in mystery and public fascination, had always seemed like something out of a storybook, full of extravagance, power, and a legacy that weighed heavily on his shoulders. But what Baron was about to stumble upon in these woods would change everything. It was a discovery so profound that it would not only shatter the illusion of his perfect life, but also send shockwaves throughout the nation. The kind of discovery that would make the headlines, not for the family he was born into, but for who he was becoming. A faint rustle in the underbrush caught his attention. His curiosity piqued. Baron stepped closer, his breath barely audible. His eyes scanned the area, searching for the source. Nothing seemed out of place. Yet, there was something unsettling about the air, as though the very earth was holding its breath. Baron had always been a young man of few words, keeping mostly to himself. But tonight, something was different. There was a pull, an invisible thread leading him deeper into the woods, urging him toward an unknown destiny. The moment his hand brushed against a hidden object buried beneath the fallen leaves, the world around him seemed to pause. What he discovered would change not just his life, but the course of history itself. It was the kind of thing you read about in novels, mysterious, otherworldly, and impossible to ignore. Something powerful, something that would test not just his character, but the very values America was built upon. Stay with us, because what follows is a tale of discovery, betrayal, and a secret that was never meant to be uncovered. This is the moment that shocked America. The moment Baron Trump found something that would forever alter his path, and the future of the nation. As the evening sky began to darken, Baron stood frozen, his fingers still trembling from the shock of what he had uncovered. Beneath the leaves lay an old, weathered box, its surface adorned with strange symbols that none of his schoolbooks or history lessons had ever mentioned. It seemed to pulse with an energy all its own, an undeniable force that both intrigued and terrified him. For a moment, Baron hesitated. He had always been the quiet one, the one who stayed out of the spotlight, observing from the sidelines. Yet something about this moment, this discovery, pulled at him. He was no longer the young boy who only existed in the shadow of his father. Baron Trump was about to become something else entirely. Carefully, Baron opened the box. Inside was an intricate, ancient artifact, glowing faintly in the dim light. It looked like a compass, but it was unlike anything he had ever seen. Its design was foreign, as though it belonged to another time, or perhaps another world entirely. The symbols on its surface matched the ones on the box, and Baron could feel the weight of it in his hands, as though it carried a knowledge far beyond his years. Baron studied the object, trying to make sense of it. As his fingers traced the strange markings, a sudden rush of images flooded his mind, visions of long-lost civilizations, of distant lands, and of a secret buried deep within the earth. It was as though the artifact itself was speaking to him, revealing secrets no one else was meant to know. But with this knowledge came a sense of danger, a weight of responsibility that Baron was not prepared for. A voice broke through the silence, a voice Baron recognized all too well. "What are you doing out here, Baron?" Baron turned to see his father's trusted aide, who had appeared seemingly out of nowhere. The man's face was serious, his eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. Baron's heart raced, but he kept his composure. "I found something," Baron said, his voice steady but with a hint of uncertainty. He held up the compass, the artifact now glowing more brightly in his hand. The aide's face paled. His gaze darted nervously to the box, then to Baron. "Put that down. You have no idea what you're holding." Baron stepped back, his instincts kicking in. There was something in the aide's eyes, something hidden beneath his calm exterior. Baron had seen that look before, on people who were guarding a secret, people who would go to any lengths to protect it. "What is it?" Baron demanded, his voice rising slightly. He was no longer a passive observer. He was in control of this moment, and he demanded answers. The aide hesitated. "You don't understand. What you found, it's not just a relic. It's a key. A key to something far greater than you could ever imagine. And it has the power to change everything." Baron felt a chill run down his spine. "Change what?" The aide glanced over his shoulder, as though expecting someone to appear. When no one did, he leaned in closer, his voice lowering to a whisper. "This artifact is tied to the founding of this country, to forces beyond our control. And now that you've found it, they will come for you. They will come for both of us." Baron took a step back, his mind racing. The aide's words were cryptic, but the fear in his eyes was unmistakable. What had he stumbled upon? And why was this man so afraid? Suddenly, there was a rustling from the trees. Baron spun around, the artifact still clutched tightly in his hand. Out of the shadows emerged another figure, one Baron had never expected to see in these woods. It was a reporter, a well-known investigative journalist who had been following the Trump family for years. Her reputation was built on uncovering the truth, no matter how dark or dangerous it was. And judging by the way she was approaching, she knew more than she was letting on. "I knew you'd find it eventually," the journalist said, her eyes narrowing as she glanced at the artifact in Baron's hand. "But what you don't know is that you're not the first to come looking for it." Baron's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" The journalist stepped forward, her expression darkening. "This artifact has been hidden for centuries, and it was never meant to be found. It's a key to something far more dangerous than you can imagine. And now that you have it, you're a target." Baron could feel the weight of her words sinking in. His discovery was not just an innocent finding, it was a ticking time bomb, a secret so dangerous that people would go to any lengths to retrieve it. And now, it was in his hands. As the tension between the three of them grew, Baron realized that this moment was only the beginning. The woods, the artifact, and the people who had come out of the shadows, they were all part of something much larger, something that would soon change the course of his life forever. What had Baron Trump just uncovered? And how far would he be willing to go to protect the truth? The tension in the woods was palpable. The three figures stood frozen in the fading twilight, each aware that what had just transpired would alter their fates forever. Baron Trump, gripping the glowing artifact in his hand, felt as if the weight of history itself was pressing down on him. The ancient compass, now no longer a mere curiosity, had become the fulcrum upon which the balance of power was about to shift. The journalist's eyes narrowed as she surveyed the scene, the air thick with uncertainty. The aide, who had once been so composed, now appeared as though he were on the verge of panic. And Baron, in that moment, felt the weight of the secret he had unearthed. He wasn't just the son of a powerful man, he was now a key player in something much larger. "What do you mean, I'm not the first?" Baron asked again, his voice barely a whisper, but laden with urgency. The journalist stepped closer, lowering her voice even more. "You're not the only one who's been searching for the artifact. There are others, people who would stop at nothing to control it. And they'll come for you, Baron. They'll come for everything you care about." Baron's thoughts raced. His instincts told him to run, to find safety, to protect his family. But something deeper, something inside him, told him to stay. This wasn't just about self-preservation anymore. The stakes had escalated far beyond his own personal safety. He was standing at the crossroads of a conspiracy that had been buried for centuries. The aide stepped forward, his voice low but urgent. "We need to leave. Now." Before Baron could respond, a new sound pierced the air, a faint, rhythmic thumping in the distance. It grew louder, closer, and Baron's heart skipped a beat. There was no mistaking it. The sound was coming from a helicopter. Someone was coming. The journalist turned, her face grim. "They're here." Panic surged within Baron, but it was quickly replaced by a surge of resolve. His fingers tightened around the artifact. He had come this far, and he wasn't about to let fear dictate his next move. This was no longer about hiding behind the shadows of his family. This was his moment, his decision. "We need to confront them," Baron said, his voice steady now, no trace of fear left. The time for running was over. The aide's face twisted in disbelief. "You don't know who they are, Baron. You can't just confront them. They have resources, power beyond what you can imagine." But Baron shook his head. "I don't care. I need answers. I need to know what this is all about. And I won't be controlled anymore." The helicopter's thumping grew louder, and Baron could see the outline of it through the trees. He turned to face the journalist. "You said this artifact is a key. A key to what?" The journalist's eyes flickered, then narrowed. She hesitated, clearly weighing the decision. Finally, she spoke, her voice heavy with the burden of truth. "It's a key to unlocking a power that was never meant to be found. The kind of power that could change the course of history, if it falls into the wrong hands." Baron's mind spun. His father had always been a man of influence, a figure of immense power. But this was something different. This was the kind of power that could shift the very foundation of the world. The helicopter now hovered just above the treetops, the sound deafening as it descended toward the clearing. Baron knew that in moments, the world would change. This was his moment. A moment to decide not just his fate, but the fate of everyone around him. As the helicopter doors swung open, revealing shadowy figures, Baron felt his pulse quicken. His entire life had been building toward this moment. The pressure, the expectations, the legacy, none of it mattered anymore. What mattered was what he chose to do next. In that instant, Baron made a decision. He stepped forward, holding the artifact high. "I won't let you take it," he declared, his voice filled with conviction. The figures in the helicopter paused. There was a brief silence, a moment of disbelief. Then one of them, a man cloaked in dark clothing, stepped forward, his eyes locked on Baron. "You don't understand," the man said, his voice cold and threatening. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." But Baron's resolve was unwavering. He had uncovered the truth, and no one would take it from him. The game had changed, and Baron Trump was no longer the passive observer. He was the one holding the key to the future. The standoff between them lasted only a few moments, but to Baron, it felt like a lifetime. In the end, it wasn't just about the artifact. It was about control, power, and the fight to decide what would happen next. With one final, defiant look at the men in the helicopter, Baron made his choice. He would not back down. The world was watching, and the secret he had discovered was no longer something to be hidden. It was time to fight for it, and time to change everything. The helicopter's roar gradually faded into the distance as Baron stood there, the weight of the artifact still in his hand, but now lighter somehow, lighter because he had made his choice. It had been a journey he never expected, a journey that had pushed him to his limits and tested everything he thought he knew about himself and the world. But in that pivotal moment, Baron Trump had found something more than just power or truth. He had found his own voice. He wasn't just the son of a famous man anymore. He wasn't just an observer, standing on the sidelines. Baron had stepped into his own destiny, with courage and conviction. He had faced the unknown, the dangerous, and the terrifying, and had emerged stronger. The artifact he held, now glowing less brightly, was a symbol not just of ancient power, but of the future he was choosing to create. Baron knew that what he had discovered would never be fully understood by those around him, that some secrets were simply too vast, too powerful to grasp. But that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was his decision to no longer sit back and let life happen to him. Baron Trump had taken control of his own path. And that was what would change the world. In the days that followed, the news broke. The story of Baron Trump's discovery, the artifact, the confrontation, the power struggle, shook the nation. People questioned what it all meant, what the artifact truly represented. But Baron knew that the most important discovery wasn't the object in his hands. It was the realization that within himself, he had the strength to shape the future, no matter how uncertain or perilous it might be. Baron's story wasn't just one of inherited power or wealth. It was one of self-discovery, resilience, and the courage to stand up when the world tells you to sit down. His decision to face the unknown head-on, to protect the truth, and to fight for what he believed in, was a testament to the strength of character that resided in all of us. We all face moments where we must choose between fear and action, between the easy road and the path less traveled. Baron Trump's journey reminded us that even in the darkest moments, when the stakes are highest and the odds are stacked against us, we have the power to choose. We have the power to rise, to act with integrity, and to make a difference. The world may try to define us by our circumstances, our names, or our pasts, but it is the choices we make in the present that determine who we truly are. Baron Trump's journey teaches us that no matter where we come from or what we've been through, we all have the ability to change the course of our lives, and, by extension, the world around us. And that, perhaps, is the greatest power of all.